Logistics or Sundarsan Group of companies specializes in ISO tanks, spares, dangerous cargoes, flexi tanks, freight forwarding, and online trading for DG goods. Second generation entrepreneur with 35 years of experience in ISO tanks and dangerous cargoes. Been a panelist on dangerous cargoes, ISO tanks at various seminars and conferences. He's a consultant for DG Cargo, ISO tanks, IMDG code, CTU, and emergency responses. Okay, done a lot of things. As a part of their contribution to the national initiative, Sun Logistics has created a freely downloadable information document on transportation of liquid oxygen, which was inaugurated by the Ministry of Commerce along with LSC, NSDC, and Skill India. The program has been created in English, Hindi, and Tamil languages, keeping in view of all aspects from the driver's points of view. There's a lot to say, but I think she is our honorary secretary for AMTOI, and a lot of things, as Priya said. I hand over the platform to Mr. Harish. Thank you, sir, once again. You have always been kind enough to come and train our members. As and when we have called, you've never said no, and really appreciate that. Over to you.
Great. One more second before we hand over to Hareshji. Guys, whatever question and answers you have, please put it on only on the Q&A box. Do not write your questions on the chat. It becomes very difficult for us to compile, to ease and ensure everyone's questions are taken. Request you to please put your questions only on the Q&A box. Thank you very much, and over to Hareshji.
So thank you. Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Vasant, for such a long, trying to say so many things about me. Trust me, I'm not there yet, but thank you. And I'll always be there whenever you need me, whatever knowledge that I can impart, share with AMTOI, its members, Triple FAI, or any of our associations, I'll be happy to do that. So starting, I believe the rules are already set. Priya has already told you all what is to be done. If you have questions, please make sure that it's in the Q&A section only, section only. And I promise you, I'll try and answer all the questions that come. And trust me, the questions are never ever wrong. It's only the answers that can be wrong. So maybe I can be wrong, but you can't be wrong in asking your questions. So feel free to ask. So yes, the start, I'll make this into two separate sessions. One is the session safe working on top of a tank container, and the second section will be about working in enclosed places where it is how do you work inside a tank container. So we'll make it as two different sessions. It's only so that you understand it better, and I don't want confusion to happen if my slides converge with each other. So yes, good afternoon again, and let's begin with what we can do. So let's understand where this is going to take us. We need to understand that when we are working on top of a tank container, we have to understand the risks involved in accessing the top of tank containers. You will also need to understand the safety measures. You need to identify the correct PPE and the fall protection systems, and apply the SOPs and emergency procedures. Now, I have to make this clear that I understand that the people over here who all have joined this session do know what a tank container is and have been part of the tank container industry, because this guidance is only going to be focused on safety provisions relating to working at height and working in confined spaces in ISO tanks only. All the guidelines that we do over here are for industry professionals, qualified people who have completed appropriate training including training in risk assessment and health and safety requirements. So when I say this, you need to understand that yes, you are already working. What I am only doing over here is trying to show you what is going to happen, what are the pros and cons of working on heights or in confined spaces in ISO tanks. This does not constitute as a training program. It is just a guidance. It is what I know that I am sharing with you. So you cannot, be part of this program and say that, oh, I know everything about how this is done. To be very frank with you, even I don't know everything. I am learning on a daily basis, and I am just sharing my knowledge with you in in this subject. So I hope it is very clear. Please don't go ahead and do things which are not supposed to be done. You need special training. You have to get that training, and that is how you work forward. Please understand that. So, understanding a tank container, what is the primary design of a tank container? We are looking at it from different angles, but the it is designed for filling and discharge at a shipper's terminal facility or a consignee's facility, which is equipped with permanent top access gantries so that there can be any entries that they want to. Beyond that, everything is ancillary. When I say ancillary, I mean that there can be someone who's transporting the container, there can be someone who's cleaning the container, someone who's examining the container, someone who's going to be part of checking whether this container is right or wrong, or someone who is testing, somebody who is repairing. So there are many such things, but the primary objective, what we need to understand is the tank container is going to carry cargo from for the shipper till the consignee. And that is what a tank container is basically for. So it is basically for loading at a shipper's terminal facility and discharging at a consignee's terminal facility or tank or wherever they want to do it, whether they are transferring it into smaller packages or no. So moving forward, it is believed internationally that wherever and whenever it is possible, working on the top of the tank should be minimized and, if possible, eliminated. Now, looking at it from the shipper's point of view, it can be done. Looking at it from the consignee's point of view, it can still be done. But then we need to understand that when the ancillaries come in, it's not possible that people will not be working on top of a tank container, whether it comes to cleaning, whether it comes to repair, or whether it comes to insurance, or whether it comes to testing, or any such matter where other than the loading and discharge actually takes place. So we need to understand that the procedure should be reviewed to determine if a process change could be introduced that would allow tasks to be undertaken at ground level. Now, what I mean by this is that as far as possible, make sure that you do not have to go on the top of a tank container, and you need to understand, or every organization needs to create procedures that should be reviewed from time to time and make sure that whatever possible do not is to make sure that you are trying to do everything other than when it is absolutely necessary at ground level. Now, this is just to increase the safety of humans who are actually going to be part of. Now, what are the common operations on top? Man-led opening, sampling, inspection, cleaning, maintenance, filling and discharge. I'm going to go into a little detail into this when I say, like, man-led opening. So the man-led opening cars can be opened when at the depot, okay, because they need to clean the tank, whether they have to use machinery to clean the tank or whether they need human intervention or someone to be going inside the tank, which is going to be the next topic following this. And many a times what happens is that the customs says, oh, we need to go and take sample of the cargo. Now you need to understand that not only are you going on top of a container to take a sample and not taking it from the bottom discharge valve, but going on top, opening the man lid, not knowing or whether the tank is under pressure, if it is full and you have been asked to take a sample, you have to be very, very careful and you have to make sure that you have understood if it is a laden tank, what is the kind of cargo that it's carrying inside, whether it has been pressurized, whether it has been purged, is there a nitrogen purging in it? And, just by opening the man lid, if it is under pressure, you are actually going to, you know, you're going to create a scenario where the manlid will jump out. It'll open with such force, and there may be an incident or an accident that takes place, which may even take a human life. At the same time, the secondary part, which is not as important, but important, I would say, is that you would be spoiling the cargo. So again, this is something that people do on top. Then comes inspection. We have people who go up to inspect the seals. You have, insurance inspectors. You have people who are inspecting the tank before it is being sent for loading, whether there are, whether it is clean or no. Then it is also the people when they go inside, they check whether there are any scratches or now, even when you are doing that, you are again going on top of the tank and then entering because that's the only way to enter the tank. Cleaning, I've already explained. Coming to maintenance, that is another thing where at the depot, when repairs and maintenance have to take place, and especially when it is inside the shell of the tank, you will see people again going on top of the tank and then coming down through the manhole into the tank. And of course, filling and discharge, which, if possible, you should be able to do it from the discharge valve itself. You can fill a tank from the discharge valve and discharge it. So you don't need to actually go on top of a tank container. Now, this is what should happen in reality. But let's now consider what happens when we talk about this in tank containers, you know, in our country. We have people who go up, who go and open the once the containers when we are at the shippers premises or the consignees from if consignee if it's an import. What do we do? An empty tank comes to you for export. The first thing you do is send someone up, say, okay, go open the manhole and smell it. See if there is any smell coming into it. See if there is any water that is left behind. Now, all these things have to be done by creating an SOP. It's not safe to just go up and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I am not going to do. So these are the things that we need to understand when we move ahead. Now, working on top of a tank container, what happens? I've told you the different scenarios, but then you need to understand when you look at the tank container, you see it has a way to go up where they've made, a ladder on the side of the tank. But when you walk up, there is no support on top. So you have to climb up the ladder and then go on top of the tank, which is a little difficult. Now the tank is on top of a truck. It has come to your factory, whether it is laden or it is empty. You are to walk on top of the tank because you want to go and see whether you can open the manhole or you can connect some connections that need to be connected. Not realizing that if it's rainy season or if there is it slippery because of water, is it slippery because of the last cargo by mistake someone has spilled last some cargo over it, or when you open the tank, is there a residual hazardous substance? There are limited handholds. If you see, there are less safety barriers or no safety barriers, and there is lack of fall protection. So you are on top of a tank which is on top of a truck, and then you are standing on top of that, and trying to do your work, which may or may not be required or as per SOP, but this is something that we do over here. And we do not create an SOP. All we do is we just go on top and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Come on, let's go and check. So, like I've been explaining to you, avoid working on top whenever it's possible. Yes, use ground level systems. Again, wherever it is possible, bottom loading and unloading, which I already explained to you. And there is also a remote sampling and venting process, which can be used if you want to take a sample of a particular cargo that is inside the tank. Now, these are possibilities, but for this, you need to be trained. You need to know what you need, what you have to do to create something to get the proper results and ensure that you are not going on top unless and until you have to do it. So coming on top and when you're working on top, if it is absolutely unavoidable. So if you see, if you all have, if the depots, I'm sure understand, but people who have not been to depots and who are working in the tank container industry must have seen that the cleaning depots have something called as safety platforms. Now, these are basically you go up a platform, the tanks are lined on both sides, and you can walk up to the tank and go on top of the tank. But you have a lot of safety precautions that are present over there. So you are not climbing the tank by its own ladder. You have a separate ladder that goes up. The tanks are placed on both sides and they're cleaned. Now, when you go up, a lot of when you are on top, now whether this is a cleaning station or it is a loading bay or a discharge bay, you need to understand that when you are walking up and you need to wear a full body harness. It People do not do it. When I say just a full body harness is also this also includes that you have to wear safety shoes, which are skid proof. And when you are walking up, you're walking up on metal, so it has to be nice, proper safety shoes, which will make sure that you are safe even on your feet. Then there is also fall arrest systems. Where there are certified fall arrest systems. And what I mean by a fall arrest system is that there is like an anchor point which is attached to your body harness. When you start walking onto a tank container or on top of a tank container, if you slip or you fall, you will never fall on your body or your head. What will happen is that the arrest system will hold you at least 2 feet above the the area or the place where you could get hurt. Then comes what is called as the buddy system. When you are walking somewhere, there are a pair of people. So one stands behind you, the other moves ahead to see what needs to be done. A buddy system helps you that in the event something does happen to you, the buddy can alert anybody else around and seek for emergency help and also try to help you if something goes wrong. So that's what is called a buddy system when you are working on top of a tank. And the point over here is that until and unless you are not safe, you are not supposed to go up on a tank and try to do any work, whether it be just going to learn about a tank or even standing on top of the tank to see how a tank looks from top. So, yes. Then there is also what is called as the personal protective equipment, where you have to ensure that the moment you go on top of a tank, you always will have to wear a helmet with a chin strap. That prevents the helmet from falling when you are bending down or turning around or even looking down at at the tank if there is a repair or there is cleaning or for whatever reason or you want to fit something. Safety gloves and boots are very, very necessary. And you need to understand that the ladder that is going to be used for, when it is going to be used, should be big enough for a person's boots to fit in and you can walk up. Then there is something called as the high visibility vest, which is so that people know what exactly is where exactly you are in the event that the lights go off or there is any other problem. The full body harness is what I already told you, and the lanyard with a fall arrestor. I just explained what the fall arrestor is. The lanyard is a rope that is attached to it, which is then attached to a hook which is on the ceiling. So, in the event that you ever slip or fall, you will never hit against the floor of where you are standing or where your foot is. So, if at least if nothing else, it'll make sure that you will not be hurt, or even if you are, it's not going to be very, very serious. Then coming to the fall protection equipment, you need to understand again when going on top, I just explained that you need an anchor point. These anchor points are usually certified and they're up on a ceiling and against which you are always against which it is done. Now, something which is better than that is what is called as the self-retracting lifeline. The moment it sees that you have slipped or it comes against a jerk, the spring action takes place and it pulls you back. So it takes you a little away from gravity. It goes against gravity and holds you safer. Then there are mobile access platforms with railing. When you say mobile access platforms, what you need to understand is these are also some things that are available. Usually, when you see, when you are traveling by a, an aircraft and you see these platforms with staircases from where you walk down and get into a bus, or where you walk from, you come into a bus and then you get out into the plane and you walk up, something like this. They will look like this, and they can be wheeled closer to the tank container and you can go on top of it by climbing that. Now we need to understand that what are the standard operating procedures that are required. When, depending on the kind of work we are doing, we need to make a risk assessment of every task. Now, when I say task, I say if you're a cleaning station, then the task is different. If you're an inspecting company, your task is different. If you are an exporter, your task of loading is different. You're an importer, discharge is going to be different. And if you're repairing the tank, or if you are a trucking company, so everyone needs to create their own SOPs. Now, again, there are trainings that are required for someone to get this risk assessment done. And it is always to be done before you actually take up this task. When a person is trained for this risk assessment for which you have created an SOP, that particular person is then allowed to do that kind of work, which should be called as the permit to work. Then the kind of repairs that you need to take place, you have to first make sure that when you go up on the tank, depending on your role, you need to have a toolbox. Now, whether that means that you have to, attach a tube to the, air release valve, you have to push in uh, nitrogen into the tank, whether you need to top discharge, you need to have all your tools with you. You cannot go up there and then decide, oh, I am missing this thing when your task is half done. So you need to understand, and that's why an SOP will have to be created that when this happens, what are the tools that you require? You cannot scream from the top saying, oh, can you please pass me a spanner, which is this size? Or I need, some cloth, or I need some tightening instruments. No, you need to make sure that, you have your toolbox, which actually meets all your requirements and more. And for all the compliances, you create a checklist. This checklist, when from the moment you start your task, you have to keep tick marking. And if there is something that you've not tick marked, that means either you've missed it out or you've done something wrong, or that can create more problems. Then for the emergency procedures, you have to create an SOP for that also. So what if there is a fall? What if really somebody has, not used any emergency procedures and are not used. They're and they fall and they get hurt. Have you actually got a plan for it? What needs to be done? Is the first aid available or no? Are the emergency contacts on your phone or no? Is there an incident documentation protocol? That means that why did this happen? What was the reason of this particular thing happening? Do you create a document? And do you make sure that after that document is created, whatever was missing and what you have not added in your SOP, you start doing that to ensure that it never happens again. And your emergency procedures are now in place. So fall rescue plan is, God forbid, it should never happen. But if it does and you are not prepared, then you are in for big trouble. So for here, we stop on my session one and we ask, do you have any questions? So Priyaji, can you come on screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. So I have, as of now, two questions, which I'll first share. Just a minute. Mm, The first question, okay, I think they're same question. Just a minute. I'll just read out because your presentation need not be stopped in between. The question is tank tear weight mentioned on tank certificate is little different than mentioned on tank rear side panel. Is it possible or is it correct? A clarification on
No,
that.
first of all, no, because the tear weight and what is written on the tank is both printed by the manufacturer of the tank. Okay. So if it is on the certificate, I do not know how it comes. It will come only from the certificate of manufacture. That is the first initial certificate that the tank has been given. If in reality there is a little difference in the weight, now that is practically possible because there is a possibility that that tank may have been repaired or they must have, there must have been. Basically, it's more about repair of the tank where a little weight will change, but that weight change cannot be very drastic. So that should be the answer to the question. I gave them both one, no, and but at any given time, what is stated on the tank has to be stated on the initial certificate of the tank also. And it only continues, you cannot change that. Unless, of course, you have made some changes to the tank and officially conveyed those changes and changed the tank type, the T type of the tank. Say if you've changed it from T11 to T14 or something like that, then there is a possibility, but then that has to be reported.
Great. The second question which I've received is a little detailed. I mean, it says, can we little bit ponder upon the functionality of an ISO tank, like its handling and operations?
Now, that is something that I have done in the past. We've done this session on tank containers in the past. On this session, we cannot ponder upon something like this because that is again a session of at least an hour where we explained everything of what the tank is. The basic fact when I started this session, I said that, you know, this has to be done by people who know what tank containers are, who have to be professionals because you are getting into the technicality of what needs to be done. So either someone who's in the operations or someone who's loading the tank or someone who's inspecting the tank, surveyors, people who repair, people who are cleaning. Now, these are the kind of people that go on top of the tank. You, a shipper or a consignee's representative will go on top of a tank. So the basics is something that we can't do right now. I don't think it's possible to ponder upon that because that pondering will take us about 45 minutes to an hour.
But we will take that as a suggestion and have a
We've done it
session
in the
sometime
past.
later.
I think
Yeah,
I
we
think
can
something
do
like
it
this
again.
also exists on our website. You can
And we
also
can
have
do
that
this.
picked up here.
Yes, we can do this again sometime later. Well, those are the questions at the moment. Dear participants, if anyone has any other questions, please let us know.
So for this session one, AMTOI still says stay safe and work smart because that's what's required. And I will now move to my session two. So I'm going to stop sharing this and go share the other. Do you see it?
Yes, but you need to open the
Yeah, yeah,
presentation.
yeah. I'm going to do that now.
Fine, absolutely fine.
So now let's get into something that is more serious. And this is safe entry into a tank container. So managing confined space risks. Now, here we need to understand again what confined space hazards in cargo tanks. We have to learn the regulatory and industry best practices. We need to conduct proper risk assessment and entry procedures, and we have to enhance emergency preparedness and rescue planning. First, let us understand what is a confined space in an ISO tank and whether we understand this or no. So first thing is it has adequate size and configuration for a personal entry. Now, when we are all talking about tank containers, the only way that you can enter a tank container is through a manhole. So it has the adequate size and configuration for a person to enter the tank. Then has limited means of access or egress. Access means getting inside, egress means getting out, moving outside, like coming out. You have to do it against that through that same manhole. Is not designed for continuous employee occupancy. So someone cannot just go in and sit and make a home out of it. Yes. And has an internal configuration that might cause an entrant to be trapped. So you can be trapped, asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls or by a floor that slopes downward and tapers to a smaller cross section. Now, if you see a tank, I tell you, but I'm sure everyone understands tank. It is round in shape. So there is no way that, you can stand on any side and it is inwardly converging. When it comes to a floor and it slopes downwards and upwards. So yes, this is what a confined space in an ISO tank is. So I hope that is clear to everyone. So again, the first thing, that never enter a confined space if there is a safer way to complete the task. Now, there are safer ways to complete the task. Now, looking at it from, again, your role in the tank container industry of how you are going to do it. If you're a cleaning company, you may or may not enter, but usually it's now with the new systems that have come in, you do not need to enter inside the tank unless, of course, there is a repair that needs to take place. Otherwise, you do not need to do it. So if you are authorized to do so, I will explain how you are authorized to do so. And are there safety controls in place? That's the second thing. And if concerned at any point whilst in the confined space, get out and report your concerns. So yes, when you are inside and if you are concerned, so what brings your concern? The concern may be that there may be a very bad smell. The concern may be that you have, there is a problem with your breathing. Are you coughing when you entered inside, or if there is any change in your bodily functions, or you feel faint, or there is any such thing? These are the kind of things that you have to leave and get out. Your life is more important than anything else before, and so before you get in, you need to understand that these are the things that you have to be sure of what you are doing. So the term permit required confined space is basically by OSHA, which means a space that meets the definition of confined space, which I have explained in the earlier slide, and has one or more of these characteristics, contains or has potential or contain a hazardous atmosphere. Now, this is what I said. If you get into a tank, there is a possibility that the last cargo may have the potential or may contain a hazardous atmosphere or contains a material that has potential for engulfing the entrant. So, yes, when you get inside and if the oxygen content is less, then there may be a problem. Has an internal configuration that might cause an entrant to be trapped or asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls or by a floor that slopes downwards and tapers to a smaller cross section. Okay. Yes, that is also there and contains any other recognized serious safety or health hazards. Now, this is as per OSHA. So I have to read this out to you as it is. I cannot give you a further explanation as I cannot break this up, but I will always tell you something that when you are going to enter a tank, the first thing that you need to understand is that when you open the manhole, one is you do not open the manhole facing the open manhole. You go onto the other side and open it so that your face is never in contact when the manhole opens. Now, why is that? If there is any kind of gases that are there or any kind of bad smell, odor, lost cargo, or there is any other problem that may happen is not going to hit you. And you have to make sure that you are wearing a mask, which is a proper mask to when you open a tank. Now, the first thing you do is you open the manhole and you leave it be. Give it some time, allow it to breathe. Only then can you even think of entering a tank. You've already understood the requirements that now you've got on top of a tank. You know how to get the how safe it is to be on top of a tank. Now you are going beyond that point into a confined space, which is more dangerous than standing on top of a tank because now you are going to go in through a small manhole into the tank to do things that is your role in this particular industry. So what are the purposes of tank entry? Cleanliness inspection. Usually globally, when a tank is cleaned through the cleaning systems that exist and are available on a global basis with companies mm, that ensure that the best cleaning takes place. Very, very few companies request for a cleanliness inspection inside a tank. But however, we see that when we are stuffing or loading in India, we see a lot of people wanting that the tanks to be inspected and clean, whether they are clean from the inside or no. You know, do they have any stains inside or no? Or do they have buffing marks or something like that? We always have such requirements from our side of the world. The other time that you have to get into a tank is whether you have to do a structural inspection. Now, this usually takes place if the tank has just been repaired or there has been a damage to the tank or there's a 2.5 year or a 5 year test. When you're cleaning the tank, there are some cargoes that cannot be cleaned by these machines, and there is what is called as the remedial cleaning of residues and stains, for which you need to send there has to be a human intervention for someone to go inside and actually do that work. And then there is repairs, whether it is hot work or cold work inside the shell of the tank. These are the possible entries into the tank known as what happens on a global basis. But here we also see that a lot of people, whether it is our shippers, right before export, send in their people to go and check inside the tank if things are correct. Is there any uh, dew that has settled inside or condensation that has happened, or is it smelling inside? So you actually, but that is not what should be done. Again, here there is something called as the permit required in confined space. Okay, sorry. Now we come to why cargo tanks are high risk. Because these tanks are used to carry cargoes of different classes all the time. So there is, there can be one cargo while it is on a trip from anywhere to from a load port to a destination port. And then when that destination port, everything gets empty, the tank is discharged. Another cargo is loaded into that tank, which goes to another destination port, and so on. Now, this creates hazardous vapors. So some which sometimes, even when you clean a tank, some of this remains inside, and sometimes the tanks need to be aired. Then, when you are entering a tank, what is the other high risk is that there can be oxygen deficiency or enrichment. The human body cannot work with deficiency or enrichment. So we have to make sure that, the tank is, when you get inside, you have to check all these things. And of course, when you are going inside, there is heat. If there is pressure, is there a possibility of engulfment? Now, when I say heat and pressure, when you're opening a tank, you're getting in, the tank has just come in empty from some place and it's 40, 45, 50 degrees outside. Yes, that is a possibility. Second, if the tank has been heated when it is come for discharge, and you are then trying to open the top and try to see what is inside, again, there is a problem. I've explained what is pressure and if the tank is under pressure or no. So before you get into a tank, what do you need to see? The first thing you need to see is that whether there is a cleanliness report. And if that cleanliness report is there, it's a proper certificate that the tank has been cleaned. Then the next thing is that when you open the tank, I explained to you that you open the top of the tank, the manhole man lid from the other side, even if you're wearing a mask, and you see if there is presence of any vapors or whatever, you have to stay away from it. Always before entering, ensure that you have measured the oxygen by an oxygen meter. Irrespective of whatever happens, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have measured what is the oxygen content. And of course, if the tank is under pressure, even if it is empty, even if it is cleaned, you need to make sure that you are not going to open the top, the manlet of the tank, because the tank is under pressure. And usually the tank is under pressure when the customer or the shipper asks, because their cargo requires the tank to be absolutely dry. So then nitrogen purging of half bar is done in the tank to maintain pressure and ensure that there is absolutely no condensation that is inside the tank. We also like getting on top of the tank container. There is also a risk assessment and SOPs of getting inside the tank. So again, like I said, you need to create a risk identification checklist. You need to make sure that the steps of confined space entry permit, like I've explained earlier, as was OSHA's, the roles and responsibilities of every person needs to be done and they need to be trained. And you need to create a sample permit format, which depends on the kind of industry that you are in. And that format needs to be created accordingly. So if you are a shipper and a shipper, your format is going to be different. If you're a surveying agency, your format is going to be different. You're a cleaning company, your format is going to be different. And if you're a shipping line and an operations person, then your format is going to be absolutely different. So you need to create all these SOPs and make sure that things work as per requirement. Now, when you are getting into the tank, I've still not got into the tank and I'm still telling you what needs to be done. So yes, gas and or oxygen meter is always required. You always need to have ventilation and breathing equipment when you get inside a tank. When you get in, there should always be a possibility that there is a breathing equipment that is given to you. There is sufficient lighting inside, so you realize that what is happening, what is the floor, is it slippery, is there some residue that is there that may, that may harm you. You always have to be wearing protective clothing when you get inside. The mask and goggles have to be there. The harness at this time will be there. And definitely with the harness this time, since you cannot have a hook on top, this is where your buddy comes in, who is going to hold your harness and stand on top of the tank, who is now called as the safety watch attendant. So whenever you enter a tank, there has to be another person who has to be standing outside the tank, holding your harness, and you should also have a way to send an alarm outside to the safety watch attendant. And when that alarm sounds, or if there is a way, a signal that you have in between yourselves, he can also send an alarm out to the others for the emergency procedures that need to take place. Now, the safe entry protocol. So you need to create what is called as the ventilation procedures. So how the ventilation procedures, the first is the easiest way is that you open the manhole and let the tank breathe. Let's wait for it to be ventilated is very, very necessary. The other way is that when you after you open it, you can pump it with some dry steam to keep it open, keep it clean. You should always make sure that you are wearing a PPE that suits gloves and everything. I repeat myself again that there should be a communication, a setup which allows you to pass an alarm or a signal to the person who is standby and who is waiting as your buddy outside to ensure that if something goes wrong with you, he needs to be there. Now, you also need to understand that, why training of getting inside a tank is very, very necessary. Because if you are not aware of the risks, you are only going to endanger your own life.
Tina, are you able to hear? I just got a message saying that there is no audio. I hope everyone else can hear because we can hear it loud and clear. So sorry to interrupt in
I
between.
can hear it properly. There's no issue.
Great. So anyone, if they're not able to hear it, request you to please check your audio at your level also. Great. Everybody has confirmed they can hear.
Okay, so we'll continue. Now, this is where the training is absolutely necessary because you have to be aware of all the risks that you are getting into as a human being. I've explained to you what the permit to work is. It has to be implemented. If it is poor, you have not done it properly, you have not created the right SOP, you are going to be in a big problem. Then there is what is called as the inadequate gas testing, which I've already told you. You need a gas meter, but you should understand that you should be trained how to use all these equipments. And you should also be trained in all emergency protocols. If you're not going to be trained in emergency protocols, you will never ever be able to help the other person. Then you have to, there are gas meters that, will give you that what are the type of gases, and you have to make sure that if you're not trained, you will not know whether you should enter or no. So there are going to be different kinds of gases which need to be detected and they need to be calibrated. And even pre-entry and post-entry, there has to be continuous monitoring of the gases. If there is any problem that comes in, immediately an alarm has to be raised. And the point about training is that unless you are not trained, you will never be able to interpret the results that you get out of all these atmospheric testings. So you have to know, you have to be trained well enough to understand that if tomorrow you are feeling giddy, you need to get out. There is a smell of a certain kind that is coming in, you need to move out. If the gas monitor, gives you a different kind of reading, you have to leave and move. And that is what is very, 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 very necessary. For these, there are regulations and there are standards. Of course, the OSHA, which is confined space standard, exists. There is an IMDG code that exists. There's an ISO 11623, which tells you what to do. And of course, the national safety standards, India is coming out with their own BIS, that's their own standard. And of course, the EU directives are also there. What is very necessary for emergency response is that at any given time, you have to have a rescue plan. And it should be done. You should have a rescue drill at irregular intervals. I won't call it regular intervals. You have to decide one fine day that, okay, I'm going to have a rescue drill and this is how I'm going to do it. And the roles of the internal and external responders. And so you need to understand that what the responder is going to do and what messages they have to pass. The very important thing over here is that suppose you are the buddy who is standing outside and something happens to a person inside, say the person faints. Your immediate reaction is that you will try and get into the tank. No, you cannot do that because if he has fainted inside, you will also go and faint. So there is something that is a problem, and the next thing you have to do is you have to make sure that there is an emergency response system that is there, and there are rescuers who come who can basically use a crane or a lifting device to pull the person out of the tank, to lift him out, and not three more people going in and falling sick or falling prey to the same problems that the other person has faced. Now, based on all this, the summary and the key takeaways are that, confined spaces require very, very strict controls. You have to use tested permit to work systems. You have to always monitor, communicate, and plan rescues. And you have to apply SOPs to prevent all kinds of accidents. I have tried to make this as simple as I can. And, this, when you get trained for this, it's going to be a very different thing. This is just to make sure that you understand the problems that you may face when you are dealing with tank containers physically. So for people in the, who are there in the depots, who are there in factories, these are the kind of people who are in physical contact with the tanks, climbing up, climbing down, going to depots, climbing up on containers and trying to check. So these are the people who need to be aware of it. But at the same time, the people who are sitting inside the offices also need to know that, what are the perils that these people who are operations and other face, and always make sure that, you are reminding them that these are the things that you shouldn't be doing. Are you carrying your dangerous, anything that is required? Are you carrying safety equipment or no? Is something that you have to also promote and ask them. So thank you. Now I will wait for if there are any more question and answers.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions. If you can stop sharing yours, I can share my screen.
Till right now.
Great. I hope it was a fantastic session, everyone. I do have some questions, more questions. Request everyone to please put it on the this thing. And guys, please don't post the questions as anonymous. We are not judging you. We would be more than happy to, put the questions and take up all questions possible. Please be confident to put in your names so it's easier for us to address you and resolve your problem. The first two questions we already took up. We need to take up from question number three, which is, I think,
Please,
still.
okay, I'll take up the question and I'll give the answer also. For inspecting tanks
Yes.
inside, for checking residual moisture or surface of tank without going physically person inside the tank, is there any other remote procedure? So yes, there are procedures. The procedures are that the tank before it leaves the depot is clean and dry. And if the fact is that if the moisture content or if the moisture existing in the tank really affects the cargo, then it is best that it is sent under a nitrogen purging into the factory. So you don't have to go inside and the tank is safe and clean and dry at all given times. So basically, no one has to go inside. There cannot be any residue. The residue is not going to be there because you're already going to have the tank inspected, which usually every Indian exporter insists. So I hope I've answered that question. We have a question from Anonymous. Between Flexi and ISO tank, where is the future? That depends on what you know and what you do. ISO tanks can carry dangerous cargo. Flexi tanks cannot carry dangerous cargo. Both carry liquids. So the future is in both. It all depends on what is your expertise. Then we come to Sumit, same manlet gaskets that has been used in the past multiple times, causing leakage with same technique. What could be the cause and how to avoid this? It's very simple. If the gasket has been used too many times, you need to change it. And you need to understand that I do not know why some gaskets have not been changed, but every time there is a new cargo, I think you should change the gasket. And if not, if depends on whether the compatibility of the cargo or no. Can ISO tank be used for flammable class 3 cargo if tank is more than 20 years old? The age of the tank is not a problem. The tank has to be tested, and if it passes a test of 2.5 in 5 years, it can carry. Sumit, regular manlet gasket that we have been using in the past with skill techniques are causing leakage in some tanks. What could be the cause of and how to avoid this? I don't know what a regular manlet gasket is, but you need to use a manlet gasket that is uh, a good quality gasket, and the the skill lies in fitting the gasket in the groove and tightening it. There is also a sequence of tightening the manlet, and once that sequence is followed properly, you cannot get any leakages. How can we verify smell issue to shipper? If any equipment is available for sensing smell, please advise. Well, it's a nasal thing, so what you may smell, I may not smell. So I really don't know how to give you an answer for this. So it all depends on the sensitivity of your nose and your client's nose. But usually they will see once a tank after cleaning is shut for whatever time, when you open the manlid, there will always be some sort of a smell. So my point here is that until and unless you do not air the tank and allow, the tank to be open for some time, you are no, the smell is always going to be there. Now, whether that smell is of, the the chemical used in cleaning the tank, or whether it is the soap or detergent that was used that you are smelling, you really don't know. But usually it's not good to just open the man lid and smell. There can be a smell of a previous cargo also. I thought I saw somebody else saying
Yes,
something.
but it's on the chat. They are asking, does the tank have insulation or heating option?
Of course. It all depends. Again, see, there are different types of tanks. For that, you'll have to hold another session, a complete new session of the kind of tanks and the type of tanks that are available and the type of cargoes that can be carried. So yes, the tanks can carry all kinds of cargoes, right from liquids, it can be heated. You can get a hot and cold tank. You can get a tank that can carry gases. You can get a tank which can carry compressed gases. There are tanks that will carry cargoes that other tanks that other packagings cannot carry. You can get rubber line tanks, you can get coated tanks. You name it, you'll get there is a solution that is available. So yes, I guess I've answered all questions.
That is all the questions which we have. Friends, if you have more questions, please you can always write to us, to our email IDs, to our admin at amtoi.org, and the senior sr coordinator at amtoi.org. I'm writing those email IDs. Please be we'll be happy to attend to all questions you will have. And in case of any questions right now, we'll be happy to assist. Otherwise, over to Vasant.
So I've finished a little before time.
Absolutely.
I've not stretched it too long. But everyone over here needs to understand one thing. So before before you come in, I would definitely like to mention that please do not do anything without training. Unless you are not trained even when it comes to understanding the kind of cargo that needs to be carried, you are going to be picking up an SDS. If you cannot understand the safety data sheet, please do not try and handle dangerous cargo. It will only create problems. Share it with experts. You need help. Come to us for help. We are more than happy to, assist you in this, but please be sure that you don't do anything that not only harms you, but harms other people. So, like earlier, I still say, please work smart and be very, very safe. Thank you. Vasant bhai, to you, sir.
Ah, thank you, Harish bhai. Again, a wonderful session. But okay, just to add to what you said, learn to read the safety data sheet. It is like when we came into forwarding maybe 35, 40 years ago, first thing we were hammered was read the terms of bill of what are written on the back of the bill of lading.
Correct.
Before that, don't do anything else. It is like something like that. So actually, you're playing with life by not understanding when you're talking about hazardous cargo. You're actually playing with everyone's life, including you.
See, it's a simple thing. People say that I'm not only saying this about dangerous cargo, but when it comes to life, you can drown in normal water.
Yeah.
So, it is how dangerous you make it. So if you're handling, you learn and train about how to handle something, even if it is non-dangerous thing. Like I said, water, you can drown if you don't learn how to swim.
Yeah. Something
So the point here is, or if you are going in and you don't know how to swim, at least wear a life jacket.
very right. Very true.
The point here is you have to understand that safety is in your own hands. If you are not going to care about your own safety, it's not going to work. So
True.
you say I don't know how to swim, wear a life jacket. You don't know that,
Very true.
take an air tube, like how we go and put stand inside the air tube and say, okay, we are floating on top of the water.
So,
Be safe.
very true.
First, yeah, get the basics right and then you move ahead.
Yes. Uh, Thank you, Harish bhai. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
And thank you to all the employee members, the participants who have really spared their time to come and learn something. We have many more sessions coming up on a regular basis on different topics. And again, there's a request of anyone wishes to us to conduct any specific session or on any specific topic, we will be glad to do that. And it just drop in a mail on the ID which is mentioned by Ms. Priya on the chat here. So, and we'll be glad always to arrange these topics for you. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you once again, Harish bhai. Thank you, Priya. See you all. Have a great evening.
Always a pleasure. So
Thank you. Bye.
take care.